Hey y'all, and welcome back to Heritage Acres Homestead. I'm Chas. Today we're going to talk about stretching that food dollar yet again. And this time we're going to talk about taking a meal and quadrupling it to put in your freezer for other times. Should they be times of lean, or should they just be for a night when you are busy and you need something quick and easy to cook? So today I have started what some people call baked spaghetti, or some people call it $1 million spaghetti. And basically it's spaghetti with it's sort of like lasagna, I guess, if you look at it that way, because there is a creamy filling in between noodles and marinara with meat sauce. I always try to do a meat sauce because it makes it seem heartier, and that way it stretches a little further. Now, let me tell you one of my tricks that I did for making this meat sauce stretch even further. Now, I am an advocate for homegrown meats, but I'm also not I'm not under the impression that everybody has that or can do that. I would love to have homegrown all of our meats, but honestly, we don't have that. I do rely on the store for some of our meats. And, you may be surprised with me saying that, but I've always told y'all that I'm going to be real and honest with you, and here it is. A lot of our ground beef comes from a store. It is very difficult when you live on a budget to set aside $800 for a side of beef. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible, but when you're living on a budget and sometimes living paycheck to paycheck, that $800 seems like might as well be $1 million, because it's a lot. When you have mortgages and utilities and every kind of other payment under the sun, that seems like another huge mountain to climb, rather than a few dollars here and a few dollars there. Now, let me say this. I do plan to go through our freezer and put a side of beef in there. That's my goal. I'm working toward that. So this may be you. I want to talk to you because I did get a call from one of my sons today, and he was making a recipe of mine. And the recipe is a good recipe. And by the time he got finished with it, he was pleased. It was good. But he said, "Mom, it's written under the assumption that I know XYZ, and I might not remember you telling me XYZ." And I said, "That's a good point. And I need to go back and, or from here on out, try to write my recipes out with the assumption that you're coming from this green, meaning that you may not have done this before." So I want to make sure that what I say here can be for the seasoned cook, or it can be for the newbie, because that was my whole thing when I first started blogging long time ago, when the kids were just babies. I began a blog, and I did it over on what was called Homeschool Blogger. I then ventured over to Homestead Blogger because it encompassed more of who I was. And that ran for a long time, and I put our day-to-days, I put recipes, I put pictures of what we did for, learning and growing and, all this stuff. Over the course of years, I ended up being the senior editor over there for a while. And it was a great little place to be. Sadly, it is shut down since then, and I lost a lot of those precious first years of blogging and the kids, you know, things that we did. And that was my whole premise, was it was like an online journal type thing, not intimate stuff, but just stuff that I would share with other people. I would put those things on there because I wanted the kids to be able to go and see it and read it one day, look up the recipe one day, whatever. Now I do have my own little website, and you can still go there, but it's missing some of those early posts that I did way back when. But I still try to put all my recipes and things on there. But now with YouTube, we have a video version as well. Now, let me tell you something. Let me take a quick drink. I did make some videos, and I had to upload the video to my computer, upload that up to PhotoBucket, upload that over to my blogger, or Homestead blogger at that time. It was something. But nowadays, things come here to YouTube, so you know, you can see it. But and there's just so much. Those videos, oh my gracious, they were so pitiful. There was no editing. It was just, if there was messes up, you know, if there's mess ups, it was in there. If there was somebody in the background doing something that was in it, it was what it was. And so, as crude or rudimentary as these videos are, those were way worse. Anyhow, but hearing that from my son made me realize I do need to make sure that I start from the beginning to include everyone. You may be me 25 years ago with meat from the store and ingredients all from the store rather than homemade. And you know what? That's still a million times in the right direction. You are not running through McDonald's. You're not running through and buying a frozen lasagna or whatever, even though, you know, there are times when we do go to that. But with putting food up from home, it's going to help you. Your grocery store is going to be at home because you have shopped smartly. You've used your time to put things away, so when you do have those times of need, you're going to have those extra amounts to put up. So what I did was, I like to stretch my meat in a couple of different ways. Now, we have pork from our pigs, so I have that in the freezer. I also have where I bought some ground turkey that was extremely discounted, and it was like 99 cents a pound. So that helps stretch my big batch cooking as well. The majority of it is ground beef, but those two things added to it help stretch the dollar and the amount of beef I have, or meat that I have in my pan here. Another thing I like to do to stretch my dollars, or stretch my meat, is to add mushrooms and bell peppers and onions and things like that. And if you have an aversion to chunks, large chunks, chop them very fine. You can even chop them fine enough that you don't even know they're in there. Like mushrooms, you can chop down so fine that it just looks like ground beef or ground pork or whatever. It is, and it does add nutritional value and flavor to your dish. So that's what I've done here. I have my ground beef, I have ground turkey, mushrooms, onions. I did not add bell peppers this time. I probably should have, but this was supposed to happen yesterday. So I got all my meats and my vegetables ready to go into the pan here. And I started cooking them down, and I'm making a large batch, large enough to send some to different places, but our water spigot bust outside. So we were without water all afternoon, and that kind of put a hindrance on me finishing the meal. So I just let it cool, put it in the fridge, and now I'm bringing it back out to get things going now. I have some leftover marinara that I'm going to put in there, as well as my other jars of marinara. But I also take this and I'm going to fill it up with some water from the Berkey and shake it around and get all that goodness out. So I'm just adding the pasta sauce that I canned over the summer into our ground meat mixture. And then, even though this is like spiced up and flavored, I add more to the marinara mixture. Simply because it gives it a little brighter taste afterwards. A little bit of a difference of a depth of flavor, because it's just adding more here at the end. So I use salt, oregano, basil, garlic powder, onion powder. That's pretty much it. Maybe a little parsley. A friend taught me this. If you will put even your dried herbs here, you'll put them in your hand, palm of your hand, and rub them together and crush them. It gives even more flavor to your dried herbs. So those are in there. There's my onion powder. Add a little bit more of that. And I like to let my spaghetti sauce, marinara mixture, whatever you want to call it, I like to let it cook on the stove for maybe about an hour at the least, because it's going to condense down. It's going to really get those flavors all nicely married together. So in the meantime, I'm gonna get my creamy middle mixture put together while this cooks down. And then, oh yeah, I wanted to tell you this too. So say you've put your marinara sauce in there, whether it's store-bought or homemade, whichever. You've put it in there and you just don't feel like you've got enough. If you will do what I did by adding more of the spices and then adding a bit of tomato sauce into it, it's gonna stretch that marinara. You don't have to go buy more marinara or open more marinara, which as big of a pan as I've got at least 3 in there. But I'm just saying, if you don't have any more and you've got some tomato sauce, you can use that to help stretch it. Because I don't want it super, super wet, but I do want enough in there that it's not just like all meat. So I'm gonna let that cook down. I'm gonna get my middle stuff out and ready to go, and I'll tell you how I'll do that. Okay, let's talk for a minute. I love to grow as much as I can here on our little homestead. I aspire to grow even more of it, to make even more of it, and to become less reliant on the store. I think that's a good goal. I think it's I think it's a wise and good way to be. But let me just tell you, this journey did not start there for us. we were a family of 6 and living on one small income as the children were babies. And it was hard to stretch our food dollar. And that was the place where we seemed to stretch it the most, or try to. Because, rent didn't change, or not rent, but mortgage didn't change. Gas varied from here to there, but we always had to have food, and there was 6 mouths to feed. So it was difficult to try to feed my family well, but also try to keep our costs down. So the best thing I learned to do back then, now I will admit to you, I've told you this before, I did use a lot of store-boughts. I still use store-boughts, but less. The store-boughts I would buy back then would be like, Hamburger Helper, or cream of chicken, or whatever, those kind of things. Those things I don't buy anymore. So it was a progression. So that's what I want you to say. I do not ever want you to think that I'm sitting here in this high and haughty, look at me, look at what I do, and I'm looking down on you because you don't. Not at all. I have nothing good in me except the Lord. And I'm here to encourage you not to scoff at anyone. So I just want to get that out of the way and make sure you understand where I'm coming from. It is a heart of helping and not a heart of judgment. And that is one thing that I want to make sure comes across loud and clear. In the grocery store from time to time, I'm seen, and I've had people say, oh, don't look at what I'm buying. Listen, everybody's journey is different. I'm not judging you on what you do. I promise. You may find me in there buying a convenience food from time to time because it's real life. All right? So that's out of the way. Let's move forward. Going back, it was very difficult to stretch those dollars. And so I would set myself goals. I tried to set a goal of like going for amount of time with no spending, just only eating from the pantry, the freezer, or what we had in bulk that I'd put away. One thing I would do is I would look at our finances and say, okay, I've got an extra $25. What would be a good way of storing it? And I would go and I would look for clearances, meat that was going, that was like expiration day meat. I would freeze it. I would buy a big thing of oats, because back then you could buy a big 50-pound bag of oats for $25. Not so much anymore, but then I did, and I would put that bucket of oats away. I would find bread that had been discounted at the store and freeze it. All these ways I would try to stretch our food dollar, or I would do like I'm doing today, I would do a big batch cooking. Now, today's big batch cooking may look a little different than 25 years ago, big batch cooking, because I do have a lot of things that I make rather than store made, but that's okay. Again, it is a journey, and you may be where I was 25 years ago, and you may be where I aspire to be in however long. You may have all your own. You may have your own cream cheese, your own pasta, your own marinara sauce, and your own ground beef, and everything is your own. And man, that sounds like a dream to me. I'm not there, and that's okay. I'm doing the best with what I've got while I can. And another disclosure, it is a blessing to be able to put this food aside and also to be able to help others. I'm going to send a pan of this to several people within my life that could use it right now. Shannon got an injury this past weekend, and he's been out of work all week and will continue to be out of work. Well, by the time you read this or hear this Saturday, he'll have been out of work a week. Devastating. I hate seeing him hurt and down, but praise the Lord, he's been working with a chiropractor that we're hopeful that after a week's time of resting it and adjusting it, he will be back to his 100%. Well, maybe not 100%, but at least workable percentage next week. That's a prayer of ours, because at this point, if he went back right now, he could injure it worse and possibly look into surgery or something like that. An even bigger financial burden because we do not have insurance. So that, those are things that you have to think of. When I tell y'all, and others have said to y'all over and over that putting food by is not just for doomsdayers. It is a prudent and wise way to be, because we didn't know this was coming. We had the snow. He hurt himself that weekend, and he's been pretty much down since. And it's the doctor told him that he could possibly injure it again if he was not very careful, until it's given it time to hopefully get back to where he needs to be. So that's a week without work. And that's a big deal in a one income family. So those are things that happens. Like I've said before, sickness, injury, job loss, natural disaster. So many other things can happen besides the doomsday idea. All right. So putting the food by and putting things up for the future it's wise. It's wisdom. All right. So got the meat sauce marrying all those wonderful flavors on the stove. Shannon will come in a few minutes and be salivating. I have no doubt. This is his favorite type of meal. So I'm going to quit yammering. I just wanted you to know that whatever stage you are in, it is a... Let me say one more thing. You may watch this and have no desire to get away from the grocery store, and that's okay too. Everybody's different. Everybody's on a different journey, and but it doesn't mean that it's not something that you could do too. If you've got mouths to feed and you've got a little freezer space, making a few meals to put in that freezer is it's going to benefit you eventually, whether it be this week or a month from now when you see that you might need it. So so there we go. Let's get back to the food. So now we're going to take our cottage cheese and cream cheese and all that good stuff, mix it up and get it ready for our middle layer of our $1 million spaghetti bake. Now for a regular batch of this, if you were just making one batch, you would need a cup of cottage cheese. And again, you can do this homemade or you can do it store-bought. I will say I love a brand that has just basically milk and culture. There are a few brands out there. I think Nancy's is one, is a good brand. Even more mainstream, because I know a lot of grocery stores don't carry Nancy's. The Daisy brand, it's very minimal ingredients. So anyways, if you're looking into a store-bought brand, I try to find one that has the most minimal ingredient you You need a cup of cottage cheese. You could use ricotta if you prefer that. You need a 1/4 cup of sour cream, and you need 8 ounces of cream cheese. That's your mixture for your middle. And my cream cheese is store-bought cream cheese. So I'm gonna open those right now and get them here in my bowl because I'm doing a triple or quadruple batch. I haven't really decided yet. I will assess that once I have the meat mixture more aptly done. I think it's gonna be. Now, another thing, I know a lot of people don't care for aluminum pans. And again, you know, those are kind of controversial. But to each his own, I guess, right there. I do use them. I only use them if it's something I have to take for throwaway or that I'm trying to give to someone. I did see a really nice idea. If you have good thrift stores, they almost always have Pyrex dishes available there, which is a great option. We don't have any good thrift stores, sadly. I wish we did. But there was one that I used to visit a few miles from where I live, but they've since closed down. But sadly, I think a lot of our thrift stores nowadays, it's become trendy to thrift, and some of the prices are just way too high in my opinion. I'm a little bit jealous of these people that can go to the thrift store and find these amazing deals and these amazing items. I've not been that fortunate. There is a Goodwill close to this town where Shannon works that I do go to if I'm ever down that way. I have to go down there tomorrow, actually, to pick up something for one of my daughters. So I may swing by the Goodwill while I'm down there. But I'm now just going to take this sour cream, the cream cheese, and the cottage cheese and mix it up. I've let this sour cream set out so it's much softer. I think that's helpful because cream cheese that's been in the fridge is pretty tough to spread. So I'm just going to sit here and kind of mush this out and get it incorporated into each other. All right, I've got my cheese mixture here. My pot is boiling or almost boiling, for my noodles. And then I've got the sauce here that is almost ready. It'll be ready whenever I'm ready. Here is a couple of the smaller pans because 2 of the meals that I'm gonna give out, they don't have many in their family, so they don't need a whole lot. I have added a bit of Parmesan to my cheese mixture, and I'm also going to add a little, like I said, I was going to add a little bit of garlic to it. And this is just minced garlic. Maybe, if it was just a 1 batch thing, maybe about a teaspoon. And then black pepper, maybe about a 1/2 teaspoon of that. And then some of the basil. Again, I'm gonna put it in my hand, crush it, and then add it to the bowl. Mix all that in. Whereas if you were doing lasagna, you know, you do like sauce, cheese, noodles, sauce, cheese, noodles all the way up. We're just doing noodles, cheese, sauce. And then finishing it with some more cheese like mozzarella. So as soon as all this is ready for my noodles are ready, then we'll assemble and we'll be done. But so you can see in the amount of time it took me to make one meal, I'm making at least 4 with the same amount of time. It's just more ingredients. So if we think about that, you know, then batch cooking is a real good way of putting some things up for a later date, or like I said, sharing with others that might need a meal, or you know, just having a little more put away for a rainy day. Okay, my noodles are done, and this may seem a little bizarre, but we because this is going to be a bake, we want to put a little bit of fat on the noodles. You can use butter, you can use olive oil, whichever you like. I mean, whatever you like, with something besides those two if you don't like those two. You want to give them, it's kind of like a lubricant, because you don't want them to all stick together and that starch to stick together in the oven. So just a little bit of fat on there and mix them all around so that you don't just have one big clod of noodles in the bottom of your pans. And because I made so many, I'm gonna have to add a bit more in there. But now, once I get this done, we're ready to assemble. Try not to make extra messes. First thing for my pan, I'm going to take a layer of noodles. Shannon, will you come and taste my sauce? Make sure it tastes good. On top of the noodles, just tell me, I'll have to get you a spoon over there out of the... On top of the noodles, I'm going to add an ample layer of this cottage cheese mixture. Ouch. I need to move you down so you can see more. Hang on.
I got earbuds in. What?
Does it need anything?
Oh, no.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Last part is to add cheese on the top. Now I have some sliced mozzarella. I'm going to add some shredded mozzarella in places too, just because this one just is so creamy and melts so nice. I'm going to add a few of those dotted around and then add the shredded on top too. It's ready to be baked or ready to wrap up for the freezer or ready to give. So I wanted to show you another thing that I did to help stretch our food dollar. I had about 20 pounds of chicken drumsticks and really didn't want to make a lot of drumsticks for food. So what I did was I put about 10 pounds at a time into my Instant Pot and cooked them for about 25 minutes on manual, and then let them cool. I pulled the chicken, and after I started that this morning, and after that and doing all my other things, I ended up with almost 6 quarts of chicken meat. Also, by only putting a cup of water in with the meat, I got well over 2 quarts of broth, probably closer to 3 quarts of broth. And now that's just like the pre-broth. That is not where I go and cook the bones down, which is what I'm doing right now. I've got the bones all cleaned, all the cartilage, the bones, the skin, everything is back in the Instant Pot. By the time I pulled all the meat, I easily was able to get all the bones in there and filled it just above the bones with water. And I've got it in there to cook overnight in my Instant Pot. And then tomorrow I will can the broth. So very beneficial way to use up some of the, chicken drumsticks are fun and good to eat on occasion, but you may not want to eat them all the time. So it's, if they're taking up a lot of room in your freezer, or if you find a great deal on them at the store, this is a good idea to do. Because it's late today, I worked on this. I worked on my crochet, and I trimmed the goat's hooves, and I even had a little nap. Spent some time with Shannon today. Took him to the doctor. So all that to say, this was a benefit or a beneficial thing for me to do throughout the day, was just getting my batches in and out, cooling them down, pulling the meat, and ending up with this much. And so tonight, I'm putting this into the fridge, and tomorrow, after I help babysit the boys, I'll come home and make some meals with it to put into the freezer. So there y'all go. I hope that this gives you some ideas on what you could do to help stretch that food dollar. I would have loved to have several other recipes for you, but it looks like this video is going to be long enough. So I'll come back with maybe some more as time goes on, and share with you some more ideas of things that you can stretch your food dollar with and help to put some more meals in the freezer, or make enough to share with a friend or a loved one. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I hope you leave me a comment or a like or a share. Any of those things really helps my channel out. And I just want to say again, thank you as always for being here with me. And until next time, bye-bye.